Welcome everyone to Two Large Ones. Today we've got escapism,
Yay!
and that's all we've got. Ignore the rest of the world, listen to us talk about nonsense.
Yeah. I like how nervous you are saying that. It's like
It's just the general pervasive fucking anxiety that everyone feels with the world right now.
I'm picturing
It's
you
fine.
sat next to like a window that looks out onto a city in absolute peril, and you're like desperately trying not to look out the corner of your eye.
There's gunfire,
Nothing going
zombies. Yeah.
Zombies firing
I'm doing
guns.
this in the middle of the Zompox. I'm just like, hey there guys, welcome to 57th Two Large Ones. Today we're not talking about zombies.
Yeah. Like in like in every zombie film, there's like a radio transmitting frequency, right? Where someone's like,
Yeah.
if anyone can hear this, instead of it being useful, it's just you being like, if anyone can hear this, just wanted to talk about escapism, maybe some art I've seen which I quite like. Like, nothing useful.
Today we're talking about our top 5 artworks. Number 5.
Number 5.
The man in the blue box.
Can you imagine that? Someone's like the only other person alive in your city.
Doing art reviews.
Trying to find out where you are. Or like, it'd be quite funny if, Corrupt FM from Some People Just Do Nothing. If that's something you're familiar with. Yeah, just like that kind of thing. Instead of a emergency broadcast, it's just someone with a drum and bass pirate radio station instead.
Oh my god,
Hold tight.
that'd be amazing.
We got a record today. 2 listeners.
2 listeners on the airwaves.
Yeah.
Speak up. What's your name? They're all around us. Oh my god.
Hold tight.
All right, yeah, but what's your set? Looking out for the large ones. Big up.
Yeah. Remember,
This
if you
one's
like
for you,
this,
bruv.
if you like this tune, pick up that phone, give us a drop. We'll reload it.
Phone lines don't even work.
Yeah, never any reloads. Because no one ever
Reloaded.
calls up.
Yeah. It was amazing.
I like it.
This is our 67th day on the air. We've run out of beans, but we're going to keep going until we run out of tunes. Let's go.
Yeah. I've only got 5 actual physical discs in front of me, so it's the same tunes again. Oh, man.
This week we're going to mix it up and put on an audio story because it's the only thing we haven't played.
Harry looked at Hagrid and said...
I shouldn't have said that.
Yeah, he's like trying to MC over the top of it. Yeah.
Oh, let's rewind that. Shouldn't have said that.
Shouldn't. Wow. Do we have a sponsor for this week?
Actually, it's funny that you mention that because we are actually sponsoring something ourselves.
Whoa.
So we have reversed... We have flipped the script on this one.
Nice.
I'm a big fan of this. I actually partake weekly and have done for years and years and years. This week, we, the Two Large Ones, are proudly sponsoring the act of roleplay.
Yeah,
so
and
this goes hand in hand with our theme of escapism this week.
Oh, it does.
Roleplay. Fantastic way to escape the real world. Take on a new persona, take on a new character. Doesn't matter what universe. It could be fantasy, it could be post-apocalyptic, it could just be real life,
Anything...
Take on a new character and pretend to be who you want to be.
Anything that involves not being yourself, or you could view it even further than that. You could delve so deep into yourself that you become who you want to be.
Exactly. You can Rain Man this shit, right? And you could 300 IQ it to where you're pretending to be the person that you want to be so long that you become that person.
Wow.
Boom. Big brain. And that is why we are sponsoring Roleplay, because we are role-playing as sponsors today. So, big up to everyone.
That's too meta.
Big up to everyone in the roleplay world, and
Hold tight, roleplay crew locked in.
hold tight, my man D and D.
DJ DM.
And yeah, we'll see you on the flip. There we go. That's our sponsorship. Roleplay.
Nice.
We're
Love
sponsoring
it.
them. Yeah, we took all of our Tony the Tiger cornflakes and just distributed it between role players.
Do you say DM or GM? What's your preference, or does it depend on what you're playing?
Depends on the system.
Ooh.
So technically,
Fuck the system.
fuck the police. No, so technically, it's based on system. However, if you say GM, it's never actually incorrect. But if you say DM, it can be incorrect because DM stands for Dungeon Master.
Yeah.
Right, and GM stands for Game Master.
Yeah.
Right. So in anything where there are no dungeons, DM would be incorrect. Right?
Yeah.
Whereas GM would be correct. So you can say GM whilst playing Dungeons and Dragons, but you can't say DM whilst playing something like Call of Cthulhu, right? Where there's not
see.
necessarily going to be a dungeon.
Yeah. That's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
It's not even a fake fun fact. That's just a
That's just a fake. That's a true fun fact.
that's a fake true fact.
I led with fake, and then I was like, wait, that's wrong. I'm just used to whatever I say being fake. God damn.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool as heck.
Yeah.
It's
It's a lot of fun, and actually, it's funny because my large one for today
oh yeah.
is talking about roleplay.
Hells yeah. Well, we are sponsoring it.
Hells yeah.
It's going to be the biggest
Hells yeah.
plug, but we can go.
Yeah, I mean,
nuts.
this is a huge sponsored set. It's just
Yeah.
a 30-minute advert basically for roleplay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then let me do some interview questions.
Okay. Yes.
Is this
hello.
thing
Yes,
on?
I am Brad Manley of Roleplaying Incorporated.
You're role playing the interview.
Well, yes, it's a roleplay interview, isn't it?
Hi, I'm Michael Douglas. No, that's a real guy. Oh shit!
Yeah, that is a real guy.
I was trying to pick two names there, and I just came up with a real person.
Well done, congrats.
And now I'm going to.
I mean, I'm sure Brad Manley is a real person somewhere in the world.
That's true. I could roleplay as you giving yourself an interview.
What the fuck?
But then you're not answering on behalf of yourself. You're answering on behalf of your guy.
That's also incredibly meta.
Yeah, I can't do that.
Also, I would be there and I'd be like, "Oh, you got it wrong. That's not what I would do." Oh.
That would be an excuse for
he
me to
doesn't-
just do my best impression of your caricature, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah, thanks.
Just
it would just be you savaging me for 30 minutes.
that's exactly what
Being
I
like,
meant.
"Hi there, guys. I'm Vince, and I'm asking questions." Like that is me impersonating you, impersonating me.
Yeah. Hi there, everyone. This is Vincent Coates, and today I'm going to be today I'm going to be interviewing myself, role playing as as my own character. What's your name?
Yeah, my name is Brad Manley.
That's very manly.
Yes, it is.
Sorry, even that's too much. I can't sit here for half an hour just doing that. Oh, be right back. I need to take
pick
a
another
shit.
character. Oh my fucking god! I've never done that.
No, you haven't. For the record, you've never said that.
Not in a podcast, at least.
Yeah, you don't even cut it out. It's just someone else talking for like.
I just take the microphone with me into the toilet.
Oh, gross! I know a guy who does
I'm
that.
talking shit anyway. Sorry, go on.
Talking shit anyway. Might as well be having his shit. Jesus Christ. Yeah,
Now these are two large ones.
Fucking no. God damn it. Yeah, I know at least two people who will answer their phone in the loo. I remember being at a service station with someone. I'll not embarrass them with their name. But their phone went off, and I could hear their phone going off, and I just kind of ignore it. And then they just went like, "Hello," and I was like, "What are you doing? we're at the urinal. This isn't cool."
Nice.
I mean, when you ring someone, you can kind of hear where they are with their own background anyway.
Yeah.
So you can kind of tell, like, if you ring someone and then it's like, their next stop is, you're like, oh, okay, I know where they are, kind of,
Yeah.
right? If you ring someone and there's clear bathroom echo, like,
Yeah.
would you say something? Would you be like, are you having a shit, mate?
Yeah, you got to bring it up. You be like, what are you currently doing?
Wow.
Like,
Well,
I'll be honest, I have answered my phone in the bathroom before, though.
nice.
But I was in the bath.
Yeah, I've
I think that's different, right?
yeah,
That's
I was in the
fine.
shower, yeah.
I mean, if you've got a waterproof phone, why not?
No, I definitely don't. Mine's an iPhone, so
Oof,
yeah.
what a mistake. Could have bought a new house with that money.
I know. Oh, fucking millennials, right?
Jesus.
House market
Yeah.
or iPhone?
Well, the house market is collapsing, so better buy the iPhone.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, my screen's fucked.
Guess I'll just have to wait for my new contract.
Yeah, I shouted down the phone and now my screen is cracked because they're made to fucking destroy themselves.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you a question, roleplay tangent aside.
Yep.
Well, no, it is roleplay based. So, yeah, like,
Well, yeah.
when did you kind of fall in love with like D&D and role playing in general? Like, what? Talk me through your first RP experience.
I'm about to drop some serious controversial opinions right now. Okay. So, firstly, don't love D&D, right? That's the first and probably the only controversial opinion that I'm about to drop, okay?
If you're listening to this podcast, you'll notice that I had Vince edit in some air horn sound effects there.
Right? So, what I will say
That's
is...
our controversial opinion air horn.
Yeah, that's as controversial as it gets on this channel. D&D, not a huge fan of it, okay? I like it as a concept. I think it is definitely one of the founding fathers of roleplay. I think it has the potential to generate a lot of content. And I'm not saying that it's bad. I'm just saying it's not for me. The fantasy genre as a whole, I generally don't buy into. I'm not a big fan of it. I find it kind of boring,
Yep.
in all honesty. I've had a couple of experiences with D&D, and both times it was kind of snooze. It was pretty boring.
Yeah.
It was very I don't want to say cliche, but it was very obvious, if that makes sense.
Okay.
You know, there was nothing where I was like, "Oh snap!" That's what's happening. It was all very much stuff where I was like, "Okay, I saw this coming from 16 million miles away." You know.
Yeah.
So D&D, not a huge fan. However, I can tell you that my first RP experience. So, okay, just for those of you who are aware, I will be referring to roleplay as RP because it is the short form for roleplay. Okay, and nobody just says roleplay the whole time. Okay,
No.
nobody says role-playing game; they say RPG. Right?
Yeah,
It's the same with roleplay.
yeah, if you're in a certain subculture, or if you actually know what you're talking about, that's why it's why Americans and military people in general love using those like acronyms and stuff because they're like, yeah,
Oh yeah,
I know the secret code, the language.
we got the UAV. It's Vito Wackass coming in hot in the Foxtrot 1.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's exactly the same.
Exactly. But yeah, so my first RP experience was when I was. I want to say it was my first year of work. No, it was before that even. Shit, I think it was my first RP experience was just after university. Sorry, when I left university. Which would have been what, 2014, I think. So about 6 years ago.
Yeah.
I think roughly. I don't know. I might just be making it up, but the exact numbers don't matter.
5 to 10 years ago.
5 to 10 years ago.
Anywhere
sure,
from
we'll go
last
with that.
year to decade.
Yeah. So it was D&D. I played as a dwarven mage
Yeah.
called Tinder who specialized in fire magic.
Okay.
And the sessions weren't great. They were run by new DMs who were very much just trying to follow what it said in the books,
Okay.
which is a rookie maneuver.
Uh-huh.
In all honesty, the best tip anyone can learn with RP is just go with the flow. And the books are guidelines. They are not
I would
like, this is what you do.
draw a parallel to music when you're kind of
Mhm.
playing music and stuff. Yeah, just play what kind of feels right as opposed to what you think other people would think was right,
Yes.
basically.
Exactly, yes. Because it becomes very sort of because people want to do things and then you don't allow them to do it, and it very much you become railroaded to what the book says, and that's not what roleplay is about, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Roleplay is about immersing yourself in a world with infinite possibilities. But anyway, so that was my first experience. I didn't think much of it, and I was kind of like, and we dropped it after like 3 or 4 sessions, I think.
Okay.
Then my second experience with it was actually not D&D. It was a system called Only. Oh no, actually, it was Rogue Trader is what it was called.
Mm-hmm.
Set in the Warhammer 40k universe,
Ooh.
and it was about a rogue trader who is essentially a very fancy merchant in that universe.
Yeah.
Who goes around trying to make profit essentially.
Okay.
And I played as something called a tech priest, which means I was like half cyborg, and like my main function was to know technology and use it and stuff like that. My character was called Techie P, and he
Okay.
was a self-proclaimed DJ. He had a very nasally voice. He talked like this. Hang on. He talked a bit like this.
Okay.
My name is Techie P, and I am with the Rogue Trader, sort of thing.
Yeah.
That is literally how he would talk. But he was also a DJ to the point where he replaced a lot of his instruments on his spaceship with like DJ turntables,
Yeah.
so that he could better interface with them. And that character died by getting flushed out of an airlock. But in that meantime, I had a lot of fun with it. I met a lot of people who I didn't know before. I sort of got to know them as well through roleplay. But that was sort of the first time that I had sat down and properly started to learn a system.
Yeah.
And we were just doing really wild and wacky things. Like, we really went off script with what the universe should allow, sort of thing. Because we were like, whatever, it's just a bit of fun, right?
Yeah.
To the point where, there were all sorts of weird and wonderful references being made and crazy ideas being thrown up and insane scenarios happening that just should not have happened. But it was a lot of fun. Everyone had a really good time, and that was when I was like, okay, cool. This is cool. I really enjoy this. And we made the move from Rogue Trader into Only War, which is again a Warhammer 40k system, but rather than it being about sort of following a merchant who's out there trying to make money,
Yeah.
it actually just follows a squad of soldiers who are out fighting on the front lines.
Oh, cool.
So there's a lot more battle-centric mechanics there because it's a lot more about fighting enemies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But there is a good amount, like depending on who you have as a GM, there is a good amount of role play to be had there.
Yeah.
And so I played in that system for probably about 2 or 3 years before I decided to take up the reins and do some GMing myself.
Mm.
And it was at this point that I wrote my own campaign. And by wrote, I mean So what I did was I took all the learnings that I'd taken as a player from the past 3 years, and any learnings that I had from the games industry as well, because obviously being quite close to game designers, you pick up on a few things.
Yeah.
I took all of these learnings, and what I did was I created a very basic skeletal structure for what the campaign would be. I created some very key sort of characters, figured out who they were, how they acted, what their motivations were, and then I figured out what all of these people were trying to do to achieve whatever their goals were, and then just slapped the players in that. so that no matter what they did, it didn't like mess up the campaign, as it were. Because that's a lot of complaints I see GMs having is like, oh, they messed up my campaign, my carefully planned design. I'm like, well, that's your own fault. That's what happens when you introduce players to a campaign, right? They're
Right.
never going to follow the rules. They're never going to do what you want them to do. They're going to find the most obscene path that they can make and take it, right? That is what players do in roleplay.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I made this sort of very nice skeletal structure, had some very nice sort of skeletal missions laid out that I could throw in here and there. But mainly, I tended to play more reactively to whatever the players were doing. So if the players did something, I would then, as a game world, react to that and create the new storyline based on that, on the fly sort of thing.
Nice.
It was a lot better. It also meant I wasn't putting loads of work into it in my spare time that I then never got to use.
Yeah.
I only ever had to create some basic stuff, which I could then feed from at any point, sort of thing. And then, I did a bunch of GMing. People loved my campaigns. What can I say? I'm a genius. And then all the modern day situation happened after about a year, year and a half of running campaigns.
Nice.
So now I do a little bit of roleplay online.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're doing a post-apocalyptic RP online, but it's interesting because we're not role-playing random characters. We're role-playing as ourselves in the post-apocalypse.
That's cool.
And the GM wrote us all stat lines based on what he thought that we would have in real life, based on that sort of thing.
I always find it's hard to do that when you're assigning stuff to yourself.
So assigning to yourself, they find it quite hard, but he found it very easy to assign it to other people.
That's what I mean, yeah. It's quite liberating.
So, like, I ended up having, like, 16 agility.
Okay.
but, like, 43 fellowship, sort of thing.
Right.
So, I can't move very fast or very far, or I'm not very nimble. But I can talk my way out of most situations, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So that's sort of it. But it's been really interesting. And so what I've been doing is I've been playing like a what's the phrase I'm looking for? Like hyperbole.
Right.
Like a hyper characterization of myself, sort of thing. A hyper caricature of myself, and extending what I would actually do, and making it sort of go much further than what I would actually do, sort of thing. Just for the sake of making the roleplay fun, because at the same time, that is what it is about. At the end of the day, roleplay is about escapism, and it's just about having fun.
True.
Right.
True.
If you're not having fun, right, then there's no point in playing, in my opinion.
I also feel like the people who are kind of scared of it, they just haven't tried it.
I mean, anyone can roleplay. It's so easy. Even if you're not like a huge talker, or you're quite, introverted, or you don't find yourself comfortable in groups of people or whatever.
Yeah.
Anyone can play. It's fun, and if you find a good group, they'll find the right way to boost you up so that you are playing your best, and nobody will ever make fun of you for it, because everyone is there for the same reason.
Yeah, it's like you put on this you're like putting on this mask in a way, or taking one off, whichever way you want to look at it, where you're exposing yourself to a group of people, and people who don't like taking off that mask, it's just like a mob mentality, isn't it, really, where everyone's doing it, so you can only look as daft as everyone else who's looking as daft around the table.
Exactly.
And with a good DM/GM, as the storyteller or the narrator, they're dragging the people who are a bit quieter into the frame a bit more as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of forces your voice to be just as loud as everyone else's, which is so cool.
And it's also really up to the people who are confident in those situations to make sure that other people are getting their fair share, but also making sure that they don't feel, like you said, like ridiculous for what they're doing, right?
Yeah.
So if that means that, you make yourself look more ridiculous so that somebody else can take a step up because they don't feel as ridiculous as you, sort of thing, then that's perfect, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm one of these people who will actively do something really, really, really fucking stupid in our group, right? Just because I know that it will help other people who maybe don't speak up as much or don't feel as confident doing that.
Yeah.
Give them the ability to do something like that, but at a lesser degree to what I'm doing, right? Because I set the bar so stupendously high for stupidity that these other people can just walk underneath it, sort of thing. But it's still much higher than they would have gone
Right.
originally.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
And you know, it very much is a case of everyone's there for the same thing. Nobody's going to ridicule you for role playing. Like, why would anyone do that? That's not the point of it, right?
No.
That's like gathering with a group of mates to, like, I don't know, smoke weed, and then
In a different country where it's legal.
Yep. And then and then like one person gets really fucked up and you all just start mocking him, sort of thing.
Yeah,
And
that's fucked
up.
up.
It's a little bit fucked up, you know?
Mm.
So unless they initiate it, unless they're the ones that are like shitting on themselves, sort of thing, for it, then that's kind of funny.
Yeah.
But you know, so that's like my pro tip is like, roleplay should always be fun, and it should always find a way to help everyone to be able to play. Not just that, but typically you'll find that if you do stuff like roleplay every week, you become a lot more versed in improvisation and being able to think on your feet, and also kind of showing confidence at any point.
True.
Because you become better at these scenarios, which can then be applied in real life, right?
Life is just one big campaign. You know?
Yeah, I know, and I fucking wish the GM would quit. You know, it that is sort of the situation there, and I do feel like me playing roleplay over the how many years it's been now has genuinely helped me. I don't know, just in loads of ways. Like, it's even helped me be able to see things from different perspectives a lot easier.
Sure. Yeah.
Because when you're role playing, you have to get into the mentality of whatever your character is.
Yeah, you kind of forget your own kind of gut reaction, I guess.
Yeah, you have to assume a whole new character, a whole new way of thinking, which means even whole new gut reactions, right? But when you become versed enough that you can do that, that's a skill that you can apply to any other situation.
Yeah.
Right? Like, if you're having confrontation with somebody else in the real world, you can immediately step out of your own shoes into theirs, get into their mode of thinking, their gut reaction, and then you're like, okay, cool, I completely actually understand what's going on here.
True.
And then you can act accordingly.
It's weird as well, the times I've played, you kind of replace your own thought process of like, what would I do with what would my character do? And the more you play, you kind of slowly substitute one for the other. And you stop thinking about what you would do, and you kind of instinctively go with like, well, my character would do this immediately. Like, that's who I am. I think that's cool.
That is the sign of a good role player, by the way.
Oh, like, nice.
There are a lot of role players who have difficulty making that distinction between what I would do versus what my character would do. And there's a lot of people who have trouble doing things such as not metagaming. So metagaming, for those who don't know what it is essentially taking information that you as a player know about and using it with your character, right?
Yeah.
So that is, if you know out of character, so your character doesn't know this, but you as a player know this, that behind a door there is a bomb, right?
Yeah.
That is set to go off when the door opens. You are more likely to take actions that you normally wouldn't take around this doorway, right?
Yeah.
You're more likely to be like, you know, oh, I want to slowly open the door. I want to check the door for bombs or, you know, anything like this. And that is technically metagaming, right?
Okay.
And whilst it still might be within the vein of what your character might do, it's something that your character has never done until this point, right?
Yeah.
It's all of a sudden your character just has a feeling, and it's like, that's interesting. What feeling has your character gotten from this very obviously bland door? I mean, and so being able to roll with the punches is a very, very important roleplay skill, right?
Yeah.
So if you're there and you know how to character, like, there's a bomb behind this door and it might kill my character opening it, being able to turn around to the GM and just say, cool, my character opens the door as normal, right? That is a powerful skill. Genuinely is, because you become attached to your characters, right? And you don't want them to die.
Yeah.
Right? And being able to willingly put your character in those positions, like, even though that technically your character shouldn't have any other way of avoiding it, is very hard, right? And being able to do that is a sign of a really good role player. Somebody who can just say, yep, I open the door. What happens? Right? that is a very, very good sign that you're a good role player.
Yeah, I love that. And it's almost like you're just as interested in the narrative as the GM is.
Yeah.
It's not like you're... I don't know, it's like sitting down to watch a film, or sitting down to watch... to read a book or something like that, or... You know, you're in control of it, but when you kind of succumb to the narrative and you're just like, no, this goes where it goes. And even though I've got free will in my character and I can decide anything...
yeah. My character just wouldn't decide this out of nowhere.
Yeah, exactly.
For no reason. Yeah.
There's no Deus Ex Machina, basically, when it comes to RP. You just have to suck it up and kind of roll with it.
Another one which is actually super difficult to not do is take meta actions to help save someone as well. So, like, somebody may be left behind and they're in peril or something like that, right?
Yeah.
But your character doesn't know that, right? But you as a player character do. It's so hard to not be like, I've not heard from such and such in a while. I'm going to go check on them, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like, why would you suddenly decide to do that now that you have this character knowledge? You wouldn't have done in any other circumstance, sort of thing.
No.
But now you are. And it's so hard to do. I'll be honest, as a GM, I always reward players who can do that. Players who can just be like, well, I don't know this thing, so I'm going to do this thing. And put themselves in a very disadvantageous position.
Yeah.
I'll always reward them for that, because I'm like, they deserve the reward, because that it should be about the character narrative.
I know you're playing with the GM. You know, they're not your enemy. You're not playing against them. You're playing with them. You've just kind of highlighted, like, the first time I ever played. The GM was very, very generous and very kind in that regards, because, you know, they didn't have to say, you sure you don't want to heal up or anything before we go into the next room? And I'm like, oh shit, actually I should do that. You know, it's like, I can now see the hand holding from my first time.
Oh yeah.
To, like, you know, if it was seasoned players just going straight into it, it'd be like, no, this is the narrative. Like, you're playing with the DM so much that they're actually not making any kind of suggestions, or, you know, you are your character. The decisions are your own. No outside information type of thing.
So another thing as well is that, you know, GMs have those screens, right?
Oh yeah.
When they're playing in person.
I've actually never played where that's a thing, but I know that is the standard.
Really?
Yeah,
So
I've only ever played in pubs, and I played in a Weatherspoons one time.
One of the main reasons that GMs have that screen is so that they can lie about their dice rolls. And a good GM is lying about their dice rolls to help the players, because they deserve it, sort of thing. So, like, they might roll a natural crit, and that is, like, basically death for the players.
Yeah.
But the GM, because he's the only one who's seen the dice, or she, sorry, because they're the only one who's seen the dice.
Oh my god, that was nearly more editing for you. Yeah, we're only politically correct after the edit.
No, it's because I'm thinking about it from my position, and I've only had male GMs, so
why are you so defensive about it? It's alright, it's alright.
No, because, okay, I don't want to get cancelled. right?
Oh, you're RPing
Anyway,
as a douchebag. I see.
RPing, yes. So,
Yes, the triple bluff.
s- the triple bluff, the triple danger.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, so like a good GM will lie about those dice and give you extra chances if he feels that you've deserved it or something like that, or it would be better for the story if something else happens, sort of thing.
yeah,
You know,
yeah, yeah,
so it is it is interesting to say the least. But
yeah.
that
Of course.
that is my experience. I don't know. I've not even asked you what your experiences are actually with role playing. I've just talked about it for like 20 minutes solid. Sorry.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, as we're sponsoring, I don't mind doing a full large one
A full large one. That's crazy.
on escapism. I mean,
Okay, yeah.
because we've kind of just that's your experience with it. Well, that might be
Yeah.
your experience with it, but mine is completely nearly similar. So
Completely nearly similar.
yeah.
Nice.
So yeah, the large one I bought for today, we could save that for next week
Mm-hmm.
if you like.
Yeah. We could just talk about escapism and roleplay this week. I'm down for that, yeah.
Cool. All right. Amazing.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
After all, we are sponsoring roleplay
That's
in this
true.
session.
Good.
So
Good.
yeah. Yeah. Boom. 300 IQ.
That was meta sponsorship there.
I
You
did
had outside
metagame it.
knowledge.
You're right, yeah. I did metagame it, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you kind of
Whoops.
remind. You sure you don't want to thank our sponsors before we move on to the next?
Ah, shit. Shit. uh,
Okay, so my very
yeah,
first
go on.
experience with RP. I'm trying
Mhm.
to think outside of last year when I did this for the first time. If there's any
Mhm.
video game I've ever played or any kind of I don't know, any kind of game generally with someone outside of being a child and we are pirates and uh, that kind of super young child play type of thing where you're literally just imagining you're someone else or you're
I mean,
in the Star Wars universe, that kind of thing.
that is literally a thing, yeah. Like,
Yeah,
most people don't even realize that they have role played and they did it as kids, right?
yeah, for sure. I mean, I did a Little Mermaid one after watching that for the first time as a kid. I remember literally role playing with my sister and my friend, and I think my sister was like a mermaid, and we were. Can't remember what we
You were
were.
Sebastian, weren't you?
Yeah, probably. And we set up.
Under the sea.
Yeah. Um, we set up in my dining room like a bunch of chairs facing inwards, so they kind of look like a cage. So all the flat parts of
Yep.
the chairs were all in the center, and all the backs of the chairs were like forming a cage around it.
Yeah.
And I can't really remember the game, like what we were doing, but for an hour, that's who I was. I was a little, either a
It was a
crab
little
or a
mermaid.
sea boy or
Sea boy.
sea boy, the worst superhero
Nice.
sidekick.
Yeah.
It's not actually anything to do with the sea. It's just the hero gets something wrong, and then I go, see,
See? I said so.
see, told you. No, you didn't. You didn't say anything. So, outside of that, I can't really think of any like video games where that it's put me in that same amount of immersion.
I mean, something like Fallout would
Yes, Fallout and
definitely count.
Skyrim, I'd definitely say like way up there in terms of getting close.
Yep.
Oh yeah, Fallout for me, I fell in love with Fallout. I mean, I came to the Fallout party late, as you know.
Yeah.
Only started playing Fallout 3, 2013 or 14.
Yeah.
I mean, it was quite late, but I installed it and like I have to say like I preferred Fallout to Skyrim just because of the lore.
Yeah.
I'm much less a fantasy person, and I'm a little bit more grounded in like, oh, that could actually happen type of thing. So like magic and wizards and
Yeah.
stuff, I am into it, but just not as much as dystopia and
So basically the same as what I was saying earlier with
exactly.
fantasy, not really into it, but
Yes.
Yeah.
So I can't pretend I can't RP as being an elf for long. but I could RP as like something a little bit more
A
grounded
ghoul.
in reality, I guess.
Yeah.
Not to say I wouldn't, but
Yeah, of course, of course.
like, yeah, it's weird. Like a magician or a wizard or something. I would rather play a dwarf, or I would rather play like a knight or that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my own personal preference.
Just
But
something a bit more realistic, even though it's not, because it's still sort of outside the realms of reality. But
yes, yeah.
yeah, no, I completely get what you're saying. Yeah.
So yeah, Fallout. Absolutely loved Fallout 3, and just played that. I've played that campaign maybe 3 or 4 times. That's far less than a lot of people, but
So
I
good.
take my
So
sweet
good.
ass time with that. I like exhaust all options for every goddamn interactive like player, and yeah, just so cool. So first actual kind of RP experience was last
Yeah,
year.
let's go classic, like
Let's go classic.
classic role play
So
experience. Yeah.
my friend Micah invited me to like a tabletop event in London.
Okay.
It's just like a. He's been meaning to like drag me along for a while, but he's been playing D&D for years and years and years since he was a kid,
Yep.
and it's like one of those. It's like the same as a book you might recommend to a friend, or like an album your friend will like. It takes a very specific kind of friendship to recommend RP.
Yeah.
And to know that the other person will enjoy it. Like, no, you need to try this. Trust me, I know you, and you need to try this. So it was like one of those kind of things. It was just like a trust me on this type of scenario,
Yeah.
which was cool. And yeah, went along, and it was really cool. Kind of blew my mind a little bit, and I wouldn't shut the fuck up about it. I think that's one of the side effects of of RP is just yeah, the inability to stop talking about how cool it is.
Oh yeah.
um,
Oh yeah.
so I get to this cafe and I'm introduced to like the group we're going to sit at, and it was just random people sitting at the table, including Micah and myself and the GM. I think there was 2 other people. So
Okay.
party of 6 in total. It was
That's a
5 or 6.
decent sized RP group.
Yeah, it was quite nice. And the kind of classic question, is everyone familiar with RP? Like, has anyone never been to one of these, or does everyone know what they're doing? And I put up my hand, I'm like, no. And they're like, cool. And yeah, you're totally right. Like, I never felt for a second that I was either unwelcome or like, I don't know what I'm doing. And it was just so natural. Like, I think with RP, and any kind of storytelling, any kind of thing that you're making up on the spot, it is just that. Everyone's making it up. So even if you're
Yeah.
quite seasoned, like it kind of doesn't make a difference. You're still going into this as blind as the person who's never played in their life. The only thing that you have is advantage of previous campaigns or previous experiences where you might have better knowledge on how to like instant reactions and what to do, what to ask, that kind of thing. So
Yeah. And also like just game system in general, right?
yeah,
Like that's always a really big benefit. Like if you've already played a year or two of D&D, you're more likely to know off by heart, like, oh, this ability does this, sort
yeah,
of thing.
exactly.
Whereas if you haven't, then you need to search that up.
There's a lot of reading to do. That's the one thing that struck me. But there's only a lot of reading to
Oh yeah.
do. I don't know. I just felt like I could skim it and kind of understand it without reading every single paragraph, everything. Because yeah, it's more of a go with the flow type of thing. So
Yeah.
so yeah, we start the campaign, and this was my first ever experience. So they chose a game system which I'm unfortunately I can't remember at all. But
Was it a D100 or a D20 system?
ooh, D20.
D20, then it was probably a D&D based system.
It was
Maybe Pathfinder.
yes, it was like a really simplified version of it. That's all I remember. And
Yeah.
yeah, I did the usual thing. They gave me a character sheet and went through the whole stage process of building up a character, deciding what their name was, deciding what their background was, rolling for the different attributes and the different skills, either rolling or picking out the kind of what do you call it, the items that you kind of start the campaign with, all that sort
Yep.
of mumbo jumbo. And
Oh,
oh,
ignore the police going by. Don't worry, they're not here for me.
not yet.
Not yet.
And yeah, it was just like instantly go. Here's the setup, and what was the first setup? It was something to do with the I think the king or someone had gone missing, and we'd been hired to find out who took them, where they'd gone, all that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we just started, and like I can't really. It's hard, isn't it? It's like trying to describe a book or like tell a story page by page. So much happens.
Yeah.
You're so invested. It's like you're there. You're literally there, and it's like a false memory
Mm-hmm.
after you've completed a campaign or after you've just played a little bit. You
Yeah.
know the ins and outs of every character and every decision that's happened. But it would be hard to sit someone down and be like, here's bringing someone up to speed, or you know,
Yeah, and the problem is as well is that like a lot of things that happen, they seem really epic and amazing and crazy at the time, but then you can summarize it in like one sentence, and then when you summarize it in one sentence, you're like, that really doesn't do it justice what just
you
happened.
undersell everything. Yeah,
Yeah. Like you could turn around and say, "Oh, we got on a fight and such died."
yeah,
Right?
yeah.
But that doesn't do it justice anywhere near as to how it felt at the time.
No, of course,
Yeah.
exactly. So, the first campaign, I think, was just like made up basically by the GM. They'd been working on like half a story, and
Cool.
what was cool was because when you meet up in London with a bunch of strangers and stuff, that's going to be quite hard to get that same group back together. So that the campaigns they try and do last for 4 hours around that sort of time,
Yeah.
so that everything wraps up by the time you leave, or really good kind of storytellers they build it in so that you can continue next week if you all come back.
Mm-hmm.
They've kind of got segmented stories where there's like a short campaign version of it, an even shorter version, a long version, a super long version, and so on.
So
Um,
that's interesting because that's very different to how I play my RPs.
oh,
Yeah. So we have a dedicated group that plays weekly,
yeah,
and because we are all dedicated to it to the point where like none of us bail out, and we all pick a time and date where everyone can show up like every week sort of thing.
yeah,
We're happy to do anywhere from 2 to 4 hours of RP a day sort of thing, because we know that we can just pick it up again next session
of
where we left
course,
off sort
yeah,
of thing. And like a campaign will span months
yeah,
rather than days,
yeah.
maybe even a day sort of thing, right? Like we will have ongoing stories that can last like half a year. I mean, my campaign, we're about halfway through at the moment, and I had run that for about 4 or 5 months.
Nice.
So yeah, I mean, there's a lot to it, sort of thing, and you become just invested in that world because of how long you spend in it.
I do like the idea of doing it online though, like the whole accessibility type of thing. Like, you'd never. I think with that London meetup, that was the only kind of pitfall is that I'm not prepared to go to like North London type of thing or wherever it was. I can't remember where it was.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I'm not kind of prepared to go to there enough to meet with people that I don't have like a super close bond with. Whereas if
Mhm.
you kind of start naturally with your own friends anyway, the bond is already there, and you do make that more of a commitment. You're that much more invested, I think.
Yeah, I think it's also a lot easier to make the commitment to meet up in person if you're meeting up somewhere close by, and in all honesty, you have a couple of drivers in the group.
Oh yeah,
Because we have 2 or 3 drivers in our RP group, which means that, like, so getting there sometimes people gets lifts with other people, but on the way back, everyone just winds up getting a lift, sort of thing.
Nice.
So it becomes a lot more convenient to get to and from the RP meetup spot,
Does sound
which isn't
pretty
out in the
sick.
public as well. It's just at somebody's house.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
We just do it at someone's house. We chill out. We have some food, have some drink, catch up. We do a little bit of RP, wrap it up, find out when we're doing next session, and sort of call it a night.
See, I've got the big table, dude. I'm, that could be my house.
See?
So up for that.
See? I would GM a game if people wanted to play. I genuinely
hell
would.
Yeah. We'll talk more about that after we're done. We're little
special TLO episode coming in.
Yeah. A little behind the scenes there for you.
Behind the scenes, yeah. Just
Um,
record the whole session.
yeah, the whole thing.
14 hours unedited.
So, going back to my kind of first time,
Yeah.
the campaign was never meant to get past a certain point. So we enter this big valley, and there's a tower which is made of like seemingly self-regenerating flesh. And we laughed at the time at the flesh tower. It was very funny, and it's still funny now. But inside the flesh tower, we could have bypassed it, but it was like interesting enough, built up enough to where you're like, okay, we need to check this thing out. It became like this super meta ending, which you could never get out of. There was no official ending. It was just like a looped ending. So everything that happened, everything you thought about inside the tower happened. Regardless of, it actually happening or not. So, for example, you go inside it, imagining you're in a completely dark room, and then you imagine someone turns on the light. The GM's like, cool, a light turns on, and you can see everything. And then he'll take you down a very specific path, but only of your choosing. So you're like, cool, what do I want to do now? I imagine a corridor stretched out in front of me. I'm like, yeah, a corridor magically appears and it stretches out in front of you. And then you can imagine yourself breaking free of the tower and going home and even living till you're old enough to kind of die of old age, and then you die, and then you wake up in the tower because you're still there, and it was all just in your head. And that was repeat and repeat and repeat for every character until you kind of realize, oh shit, this is like... The game ended, the campaign ended when you as a group were like, you came to the conclusion of, oh shit, this never ends. And then the DM's like, yeah, you're right, it doesn't end, and thanks for playing, type of thing. But it was a really cool, really slow process of understanding that. So again, like underselling it, but so many things happened inside that tower, where we would like trial and error, trying to figure stuff out. I actually went down that exact route I just said. I kind of imagined that we all broke free of the tower collapsed, we all went our separate ways, and like we got paid handsomely. The guy we were trying to find from the get-go, I imagined that he was in the tower, and we found him, and then we saved him, and obviously none of that actually happens ever.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought like as a first experience, it was a really cool bite-size campaign we played. It was just so cool.
That would have upset me.
I know. Yeah. I think it wasn't like very traditional. They did say it wasn't very traditional, but I think for me, as like a first-time player, I hate
forced endings. That's the one thing I can't stand.
It was all a dream.
Oh, not even that, right? Although that is the hugest cop-out of all time.
What about, okay, I imagine it was all a dream, and then they're like, okay, you imagine it was all a dream, and it was all a dream, but you also wake up back in the tower. It's like, oh, for fuck's sake.
Like, I can't stand endings that are like forced upon the players by the GM. Like, I always want there to be an option to take a different ending. Like, so one of the things that irks me is when my character gets forced to die because it's the end of the campaign, and I'm like, why can't my character just retire? Why can't my character just go off into the sunset? Why does he have to die? I don't understand. Hello? sort of thing. Um, those ones definitely irk me because I've had those happen to me on several occasions.
Yeah.
Several occasions where I'm like, no, I can definitely survive this, and the GM's like, nah, you died, and I'm like, no, but I didn't. I definitely didn't. I have all the papers. It says that I didn't. It's like, yeah, but the GM said so. So I'm like, you mother Hubbard. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's upsetting, but it
I
happens.
know what you mean. Especially like, um, the escapism shouldn't be temporary in a way. You shouldn't have a time limit or a kind of finite. Uh, I mean, so yeah, obviously a campaign is going to end, but when it's
Yeah, it
that
can end
short,
however you want.
yeah, like for me it was kind of bittersweet because on the train home, I kind of realized I've spent 4 hours in a different mindset, in a different place, in a different world, and it feels like I'm just adjusting back to reality. And it was like, um,
Yeah,
it was kind of like, oh, that's a shame. It kind of ended that way, or like, it's like
good dream.
waking up from a good or bad dream. That kind of same feeling of none of that happened, but it kind of did in its own way. It did happen, and it does mean something.
I hate waking up from good dreams more than I hate waking up from bad dreams.
True. Yeah.
Because bad dreams, you wake up and you go, oh, well, it was just a bad dream, right? Things don't suck like that, right? But you wake up from a good dream and it's like, fuck, man. Like, things suck more than they did when I was asleep. Why did I wake up? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know
It's like
exactly.
you get down on yourself because real life isn't as good as the dream you were just having. It's like those ones don't happen often, but when they do, they're just like, why?
Yeah,
That's
you
so
choose to
painful.
roleplay every time you go to sleep. It's basically you're just entering a different campaign every time, you know.
Yeah, true.
And it's the same sort of thing. You get faint memories of things that kind of happened when you wake up, but the story as a whole is very hard and complex to string together. So you just get the bullet points, and you're like, that was either a good bullet point list or a bad bullet point list.
So, actually, sorry, just getting back to the point. So that was your first time. Was that your only time, or?
I've only ever played it twice, and the second time I played it was a completely different game system. Still a D20 system, but it was
Okay.
different in the sense that um, I'm really annoyed that I can't remember the book because it seemed perfect for like just going immediately. The character
Hmm.
setup was maybe 20 minutes as opposed to I think an hour that we spent the first time. You
Yeah.
roll, and in the book, whatever you roll, you're pre-assigned a character. It's got all the traits, it's got the items, everything's already good to go. So you roll a 57. You just flick to character number 57 in the book. That's you. Uh,
Right. So
you
it's the
can,
60-second rice of roleplay.
yeah. Wow. Um, you and it's like it was just much more of a jump start, and it was really cool. You could get into the fun part of it um, from the get go, especially with those shorter sessions. For the longer ones, I'd much prefer to do the whole process, decide who I'm going to be, and make up my own character and all that sort of thing for a longer campaign. But I think for the meetups where you're just doing it for a day or like 4 or 5 hours. I think the second time I went, it was about 6 hours we played. I think it was about that long. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, it was cool. We just like jumped straight into it. And I can't remember the exact campaign either, but those are kind of written and they're bullet pointed. So it's the DM's job to kind of string together a storyline as well. Similar thing. There's like less writing, less. Oh, it says in the book that this. It's just here's a bullet point, and then make up your own interpretation of that,
Yeah.
which I thought was quite cool. I can't really remember who I played actually because I didn't get to
Oh, okay.
choose them, obviously, so it sticks less in my head. But the story was that we were all in jail and we needed to get out, and we were like being held captive in this colony of goblins,
Mhm.
and that was basically it. It was like a bit like a mystery kind of solve the case type of thing. That's what it felt like.
Okay,
That was quite
that's
cool.
pretty cool. Pretty cool.
I actually died in that campaign. I got
Well done.
yeah.
Congrats.
I
Congrats.
do you want to step away or do you want to go for another hit? And I was like, yeah, let's do it. Let's go again. And yeah, I got wiped out. I got critted, I
Classic.
think.
So I want to talk a little bit about some of my characters that I've played.
Yeah, sure.
And just some interesting things that happened with them. So, first character, obviously, Techie P. Went insane, got flushed out of an airlock. Then I had another character. I can't remember what his name was. But basically, we were in a Rough Rider regiment, which basically meant everyone was on, I think, rhinos, but they had been tamed the same way that horses had been.
Right, okay.
Right? And we all had, like, lances with explosives on them.
Yeah.
But my character didn't have a rhino. He had just he had a sentinel, which is essentially think of an 8080 from Star Wars.
Yeah.
So everyone else had rhinos, and I was just in a sentinel, and I was just like, okay, this is fine. And if I remember correctly, he ended up burning to death.
Oh.
Yeah, but he had an interesting one where we were sneaking around a base. I opened up the wrong door, stepped into a room, and there was like 5 guys surrounding me. And I just stood there and I was, oh, that's right. I think my last name, I think I was Sergeant Pims was my name. Because I made the joke, I was like, 5 of you, 1 of me, I make that Pims o'clock. At which point I ran and closed the door. But he ended up burning to death.
Jesus Christ.
Then I'll be honest, my all-time favorite character that I've ever played to date was a character called Hal Hobb. Okay,
Hal
first
Hobb.
name Hal,
Okay.
second name Hobb. Okay, he was
Yeah.
a commissar. So he's sort of black trench coat, black pointy hat. He's supposed to be the person keeping the morale up for the troops, sort of thing. And he's also the person who does like field executions if people cower out of battle.
Right. Okay.
But I was playing him quite lightheartedly.
Mm-hmm.
And I managed to get my hands on a piece of technology that was quite insane, because it basically meant any time I was supposed to take damage, I rolled my dice, and if I rolled between either a 6 to a 55 on a 100, on a D100, basically,
Yeah.
my character, rather than taking the hit, would be teleported a random number of meters away
Yeah.
and just not take any damage. So
That's pretty sick.
I had this piece of technology, and I started getting into like hand-to-hand fights with things, and I started losing this one fight, and I just went, fuck it, and I just pulled my grenade belt off from my waist, pulled the pins on the grenades, dropped them to my feet. They all detonated at once, but my field went off and I got teleported away. And I just blew up the thing I was in hand-to-hand combat with, and so I began doing that as my primary strategy when engaging things.
Nice.
I would just run up to them, start fighting them in hand-to-hand, and just start dropping grenades, live grenades at my feet, hoping that the field would activate. And I think you can see where this is going. Eventually,
Yeah.
my character went insane. And disappeared off into the night. He never actually died. He just disappeared off into the night screaming madly about grenades.
That's pretty sick.
And I had another character who I'd based on the Fist of the North Star. Do you know who that is?
I do not know.
Have you seen the anime clip where the dude stands there and he goes, "What?"
No, I'm
No?
not.
Okay, cool. Well,
You've sold it to me though.
basically, the Fist of the North Star, Kenshiro, he stands there, he punches someone like 1,000,000 times, right? And then they're left stood there, and they're like, "What? I'm still alive. What the hell?" And the dude turns around and he's like, "Omae wa mo shinderu," which is obviously you're already dead, you just don't know it yet, sort of thing.
Right.
At which point he walks away, and the bad guy's normally just like, "Wait, what do you mean?" And then all of a sudden, the dude just explodes into a million pieces, sort of thing.
Oh shit.
And I based a character on that, who I had somehow managed to get him an extra set of arms, so he had 4 arms. And I would punch something like 22 times in one turn and just beat it to death with my bare hands. But eventually he became so corrupted that he fell to the powers of chaos and got dragged into the underworld. Quite literally.
Nice.
So yeah, most of my characters have gone in pretty horrific ways, actually. Yeah, I've had a lot of interesting and fun characters. And I've got a couple in my only war sessions right now, which I'm quite enjoying.
Yeah.
When I get the chance to go back to playing them. But the one that... So here's an interesting one, right? Wrap your head around this. I don't like the fantasy genre, right? But we are currently playing an only war game where the world that we're on is so far unevolved that they're like in the feudal time period, so they have like knights and stuff, and they don't have guns. So I'm playing as a knight,
Right.
but I'm playing as a knight against like aliens and shit.
What the hell? I mean, why not?
Yeah, it's really funny. But I'm just playing as like this bilious knight, and I'm like, nah, another drink for the victory, sort of thing. But it's a lot of fun, I'll be honest. And I think I definitely would want to run a session with you. I think that would be a lot of fun, actually.
Oh yeah, I think
Get the VG&T involved or something.
that'd be so cool.
Yeah.
I think that kind of, when you've got that natural bounce off someone else, let alone a group of friends, it's so natural.
Exactly. And I think on that bombshell, we should thank
Our sponsor.
no, wait, they should thank us.
They should, yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, they should thank us. Roleplay, thank me. Thank me for appearing within your scene. Because I am so amazing.
Thanks for asking for the sponsorship.
Yes, we're happy to sponsor you today at Roleplay.
Any other kind of ideas or any other kind of methods of that sort of thing? If you're looking for sponsorship, just get in touch.
Yeah, if you're looking to get sponsored by us, get in touch so we can say no.
Yeah.
There's nothing we enjoy more than turning people down and breaking their dreams.
Exactly.
So,
email is
get in touch.
no reply at tlo.org.
No reply. No reply. Nice, dude. Fantastic. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in to Two Large Ones. This has been your Escapist special. I hope you have enjoyed not thinking about how terrible the world is.
Fooled you.
Fooled you.
Stop thinking about it.
Why are you thinking about it?
Still thinking about
Can't get mad, not thinking about it. Can't get mad, not thinking about it.
Good luck escaping real life out there.
Good luck. Yeah.
Good luck. Jesus Christ. What a tragic ending.
It's very tragic.
Yeah. Until next week. Good luck.
Actually, wait. No. Let's wrap this up in true roleplay fashion.
Nice.
All right, guys. Well, the world is great out there. Go out, enjoy the world, smell the flowers, enjoy the sunshine. Everyone is amazing. The world is perfect. Climates are down. Profits are up. And the world as we know it is at peace. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on this very escapist special of TLO. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Was that escapist or delusional?
Yeah. Just, yeah.